Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, where we talk about all things paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, Christmas is coming up right around the corner. In fact, in a couple days it will be Christmas. So we just wanted to wish all our listeners out there a very merry and happy Christmas, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our little show here. So, Kara, did you do anything cool or interesting or fun the past week, or whatever it's been?
I went to Pittsburgh last weekend.
Yeah, how was that?
It was fun.
Did you guys do anything cool or interesting?
We went to a milkshake place. It was really good.
Yeah, they had like specialty milkshakes with all kinds of stuff in them, like donuts and all that crazy
jazz.
Yeah,
I got like a cookie dough milkshake, but they had like some kind of crazy flavors. But they were really good milkshakes. I think Jake's also been there when he went.
Oh, yeah?
He's the one who told me about it, so. But, it was like.
Interesting.
Freezing. It was weird because it was like so cold on like Saturday night. But then like Friday it was so warm. It was so weird.
Huh.
Because the storms were coming in. So it was like pouring all day on Saturday. So I had to like do photos out in the rain. It was kind of terrible.
Huh. That stinks.
I mean, it was fine. It, like, stopped raining around 3, so we got, like, a little bit of time where it wasn't gross and raining.
Did you do some shoots at the Cathedral of Learning? I thought I saw some
more
pictures
I went there on Sunday. There was a Zelda that wanted photos.
I think that's what I saw online.
And she actually graduated from the Cathedral of Learning. And she saw, like, people that she knew there, which is kind of funny.
That's weird.
She, like, ran into people, because I guess it was graduation day when we were there.
That's crazy.
So there were people, like, yeah.
So did you ask her about the haunted stuff that goes on there? Did she know anything about that by any chance, or did you not ask her?
No, I totally forgot.
You should have asked her.
But she said, originally she wanted to go inside. Well, she was telling me she actually wants to get married there. Because I guess because you can get married inside of the like, thing, which looks really cool inside, apparently, she told me. And she said it's, like, way cheaper if you were a grad.
Oh, I bet. They probably cut you a big deal.
Yeah, so that's where she wants to get married at. That's what she was telling me.
Fun.
Because she drove us there in our car on Sunday. We were supposed to do it on Saturday, but with the rain, we were like, let's just try it on Sunday instead. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Plus Sunday, remember, it's free.
Yeah,
to park
but also
there, so it helps a lot, because otherwise it's expensive and it's hard to find a spot to park.
Yeah, and it was hard because it was commencement that day. There were literally her program
so it was probably crowded.
Was like graduating, because she was asking a few of them, and they're like, mechanical engineering is what she graduated, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
interesting.
That was and then this weekend I'm going to Florida. Which is technically...
I know.
I guess when you're listening to this, it would have been the past weekend, because this comes out on the on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have been already in Florida.
Yeah,
doing more work. Yet again.
Yay.
Alright. Are you ready to get the shenanigans?
Yeah. Who wants to go? Who's going to go first?
Do you want me to go first?
I don't.
I think.
Go ahead.
I
went first last time.
Okay. All right.
So I'll let you go first.
This thing is so weird.
What you got for us?
So we're gonna talk about the Mary.
All right.
The Mary Lwyd. The way they say it's really weird, but it's the translations like Grey Mare or Grey Mary.
Okay.
It is a Welsh tradition that we think of, but it's normally basically they believe it's from Welsh because most of the reports are from that area. It's a folk tradition where they use a hobby horse, which is made from a horse skull mounted on a pole and carried under a blanket. So It is terrifying. It is scary. It's a horse skull and they will carry it around. It's just as weird as it sounds. It's honestly terrifying. When I first saw the photo, I was like, "What the hell is that?" It's night.
Oh my God! Wait a minute. You know
might
what?
have heard of or seen this.
Okay, I have, and you know what? Okay, you're gonna laugh, but I was on TikTok one time.
Yes, it's a TikTok.
And there was this. Yeah, is it the one about the girl that moved into like this house or apartment or whatever, and she finds a skull in the basement and she didn't know what it was, and it turns out it was that like it was for the tradition. Was like a New Year's tradition.
Yes,
yes,
it is the same.
Yes,
it is the same thing because it got really popular on TikTok last year.
Yes, that's what
it is very creepy,
like
and you basically wear
I've seen it. It is creepy.
A white sheet over top of it, so you can't see the person underneath, and then there's a person that goes underneath, like a puppeteer kind of thing.
Oh, that is crazy.
But anyways, it's a weird tradition. I will say that it is kind of scary. So the custom was first recorded in the 1800s. The actual date of the origin is currently unknown. There was a book from it in 1798 where it mentioned it is like kind of like written first acknowledgement of the ceremony written down. So traditionally it is performed near Christmas or New Year's. It's around that sort of like winter time basically. So there's a group of men who would accompany the horse on its travels around the local area. So they will go knocking on doors and sing a specific song, and the people on the inside would lock the doors, the windows, and the back door. They would deny entry to the Mary Lwyd and party. It's like the group of people with it. And then the party would challenge them they would like have to sing verses, and then basically the people inside would have to return every verse, and if they didn't, then the Mary Lwyd would be able to go inside the house. So eventually it would gain entry. The whole group would gain entry into the house, and the Mary Lwyd would actually chase the children and women around the house, which sounds scary. Yeah,
that sounds crazy.
Yeah, that's why I said this is wild. And then they would then perform a crazy, chaotic dance around the house. All the people. And then the party would be given beer and food, and then they would leave and continue on to the next house. And
okay,
they basically
the beer
would go
and food
house to
part
house.
Sounds fine, but the
rest of
it's
like a drunken.
Up.
It's like a drunken thing. Like a bunch of drunk men do this, basically.
Well, now it explains everything.
But it is normally related to like a church. Like a church. Really? Like a parish.
Okay. Interesting.
So, normally, traditionally, these like little parties, there would be the Mary Lwyd, like the horse, it would be led by a nicely dressed man, and they would be accompanied by two characters called the Punch and Judy.
Oh yeah, I remember Punch and Judy. It was like an old show.
It's like a show.
Yeah, little puppets that fight with each other constantly. Yes,
they would have people dressed up like that.
Oh,
Those would normally accompany them. The Judy character would always be a man dressed up as a woman, and they would carry a broom, and when they would enter the house, they would put out the fire and sweep the kitchen. It was supposed to be symbolic of, like, getting rid of the bad spirits.
Yeah, or the bad year and letting the new year come in.
Yeah, because it's at the end of the year, so it's kind of like a bringing in the New Year tradition.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
So there is some speculation that the tradition is related to the Virgin Mary and Christian traditions. But, who knows? But folklorists believe it is a part of the hooded animal tradition. There are other, like, folk legends that have to do with, like, the hooded animals. In Celtic mythology, animals who had the ability to cross between this world and the other world are traditionally white or gray in color, which is why it's called the gray mare, because it's kind of like a symbol of death, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. So, remember how I mentioned that there was, like, other ones? There are other basically in the whole Great Britain area, there's one about a goat. So it's, like, basically the same thing as, like, the horse, but instead it's a goat head.
Yeah.
But then it's basically the thing that always has to happen. It's always around Christmas time or New Year's, and there's always a song or a request for some sort of payment. They always ask for food, but
Right.
It really does change based on, like, as like the years go on, it changed. Like I said, the goat, and the tradition saw a decline during the 19th century. There were arguments that the changing social conditions altered the way that people celebrated Christmas, and like how likely people would let people in their house, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not
especially
me.
during that time. And then the tradition actually started back up again in the 20th century when people,
really? Huh.
Yeah. And it's actually still like practiced today in some places.
Huh.
In the town council of there's no way I can pronounce this. It's like Aberystwyth had the world's largest Mary Lwyd, which for the millennium celebration in 2000. So they had like a giant one. And I was also watching this video about where they had this like get together where everyone who had one got together, and it was like the world's largest gathering of them.
Huh.
There's obviously pop culture references. There's a children's book called The Silver on the Tree that mentions the Mary Lwyd. But I just think it's very weird that people would just, I don't know, I think it'd be creepy if people were just trying to get in my house like in the middle of the night.
Yep, randomly.
Wanting to sing songs and take my beer and food.
With some weird head thing on a stick.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you should definitely look up the photos. It's very,
I'll have to. It sounds really creepy and weird.
It's very terrifying looking. I mean, I know it's not like, obviously they treat it as like it's supposed to be like a good thing in their culture, but I feel like it's just kind of eerie. Yeah. That whole thing. But yeah, there wasn't like a bunch on it, but that was the main tradition since we're doing a little holiday themed.
Right.
And that was kind of like a New Year's 2 thing.
Yeah. Nice. You tied both of them in together.
Yeah, like I said, this is our last episode of the year, right?
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's the Mary Lwyd tradition. And they apparently do it in Texas. There are people that like try to do it in Texas, like to recreate it nowadays. But they don't go house to house because I feel like in Texas you might get shot.
Yes, definitely.
But they'll go around pubs. They will go around pubs and do the tradition, and they'll go around with like the traditional thing and just kind of like try and bring I can't think of the word, like they just want people to know about the tradition, spread the word about it, because like a lot of people don't know about it,
or revive it, I guess you could say, or
just kind of like bring attention, maybe. I don't know, I can't think of the correct word, but it's an interesting little, very creepy Celtic tradition. And then even like there's other like ones about it too, which I thought was interesting. All right, what do you have?
All right, so I have for us elves, as in Santa's elves and elves. Okay, so elves are basically considered a type of humanoid supernatural being, and they come from Germany, from mythology and folklore. In medieval times, elves were thought of as being beings with magical powers, and they were supernaturally beautiful. And if you found an elf, it was thought that they would mostly bring you good luck, but sometimes, depending upon how they were or how they felt about you, they could also bring you bad luck or misfortune. The term elf is found throughout German culture, and originally it meant a white being. Elves have appeared alongside gods in Norse mythology, and they are believed to cause illness to people. They have magic powers, and they use their beauty as a way to seduce people. In fact, in some cultures, it's believed that elves are similar to like a succubus, because they're so beautiful, and then they're like, yes, that's what they equate elves to, which is kind of funny. So after the medieval period, the word elf became less common amongst people, and new names began to pop up that meant the same thing as elves, but it was a totally different name. One of those names was the Zuurg, which basically means dwarf, and that came about in Germany. And then we had the Huldra, which meant hidden being, and that was more from like Norse or Nordic traditions. People today still believe in elves, especially in Scotland and Scandinavia. And the elves were thought of as magically powerful people, and they're invisible, and they live alongside human beings, apparently, is what they believe today. But with the urbanization and the industrialization of the world over the years, the beliefs in elves has declined rapidly. The elves of today, as in Santa's elves, only just became popular during the 19th and 20th centuries.
Yeah.
Because of Christmas. The elves were rebranded kind of as these jolly little guys that help out Santa, by fixing toys and all that, as good instead of the kind of evil that they had been originally thought of as being back in the day. Belief in elves has its origins before Christianity began, and people who believed in them at the time were being labeled as pagans because they thought elves were bad, and if you believed in elves, then you must not believe in God and all that stuff. Elves have appeared as a demonic force in English, German, Scandinavian prayers over the years. In fact, I don't have one on me, but when I was looking up this information, there were lots of references to different prayers where they actually talked about elves. And actually, in one of the books that I came across, that the reference of the term elf in the actual prayer or the book actually is another term for Satan, apparently. So who knew? Yeah. But actually over the years, the word elf came to mean changeling. And how that came to be is basically the elves will steal a human baby. Okay, here we go again with stealing babies and all that good stuff. And the elf would leave a changeling, which kind of like our whole story. Remember from the Philippines that we talked about, when the elf leaves a changeling, it basically will not thrive, and it basically gets sick and dies. Again, there's with the whole, it's kind of similar to the whole asswang thing. And in today's sense, we got the word oaf comes from that, because back then, when they left the changeling, it meant that the person was a fool because they believed that this, dead thing was really their kid. It also was another term for stupid person or a large, clumsy man or boy. So basically the word oaf is a form of the word elf.
That is weird.
I know, isn't that kind of weird? Yep, neither did I until I read this. They say that by the end of the medieval period, the elf was being used less. The word elf was being used less and less, and the word fairy was starting to be used. And we see that in a lot of stories and stuff where they talk about fairies and less about elves. In folk stories in Scandinavia, elves often play the role of a disease spirit, and it's said that the most common disease that they gave people, which was also the most harmless of all the diseases that I guess the elves could supposedly give you, and I'm air quoting elves as I say this, was a skin rash called elven puff. So I guess if you piss off an elf enough, they can give you this disease called elven puff, and basically you would just break out in this nasty rash with like boils and stuff all over your skin when you've ticked them off. And it got to be so bad that in some of the cultures, especially like in the Scandinavian culture and in the Celtic or like the Irish culture, that people began to feel that they needed to protect themselves and their livestock from malevolent elves. So they actually started to come up with their own form of an elf cross, which basically was a pentagram. And what they would do is they would carve this elf cross into buildings and other objects near their property and near their animals, their livestock. And it existed in they had two different types of this elf cross. The first one was an actual pentagram. And like I said, it's still used today. They would carve it into their farms, into their buildings and stuff to help protect them from the elves so they wouldn't get any, elf diseases or whatever. And then the other type of elf cross that they would use was actually a regular cross that was carved onto a round or oblong silver plate. And this was usually worn as a necklace, and that was to help keep the elf curses at bay. In Iceland, funny thing, the elves there are also known as the Huldrfolk, and that means hidden people. And these elves are the ones that dwelled in rocks and formed mountains. Now, if you recall from Frozen, Kristoff, right? Remember his friends and his family were the rocks. Yep. Remember that? The rocks, right. Well, that's basically what this is a reference to, is the rocks and that. Those were basically rock elves that we saw in that. So, yeah, and that kind of neat to see that, some of the folklore that's about elves is still being used today in modern, cinema and books and stuff. And these elves are not the same as the elves that we talk about in, The Hobbit and all that. Those are different types of elves. Those are more of like a woodland creature stuff. But anyway, that's all I have for us this time around is our friends the elves. So don't go messing with elves so you don't end up getting elf diseases and stuff. But yeah, that's all I have today. So,
yes.
Well, we wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And we will see you, everybody, in 2022. Yep. Hopefully, everybody will be happy and healthy. And hopefully, we can get through this year, the last couple of weeks here, and move on to a better year, I hope.
If you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast. And please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.